I'm pleased to begin a little bit early today on Thursday, April 26th, so we can accommodate our international guests. We have, of course, Ole Dammegard and Conny Andersson. Conny, this is your first time on the program. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, my friend, and I'm happy to be with you.
And of course, everyone knows Ole. Ole is just back from a tour through Holland. How are you, Ole?
I'm doing absolutely great. I just survived a visit to the dentist as well, so if I have this southern slur, you know why.
Well, it looks like all your teeth are still intact, so that's a good thing.
Well, they say they're like horse teeth, so, well, they're good for eating.
Now, Ole, you've just introduced me to Conny. Can you tell us a little bit about what we'll be discussing today?
What I would very much like to do is to introduce Conny to the rest of the world, because he is one incredible human being and with amazing skills. Former police officer for more than 20 years, totally fearless, I would say, or very little affected by fear, in an absolute beautiful way that I very much admire. And he was, during these years, he was working hard against or trying to expose the Swedish mafia that went all the way up into the government and very high-ranking places. There was especially one police officer that I have also investigated in my in my research of the assassination of the Swedish Prime Minister Olof Palme. Turns out that this individual, both of us have been tracking him down because he started Conny came under his command, and right away he sniffed himself to something really bad. And that led Conny into, when he started exposing what was going on inside the police, these forces tried to destroy him, and he got taken to court for things he had not done, and so on. Really very, very bad, until in the end, where I think it was the Swedish police chief that said, listen, let him go, he's a good guy. And then after that, later, his new boss said that you've always been really good at tracking things, so I would very much like for you to take a break from this here in Sweden and go to the US and get an education as an Apache tracker.
Wow.
And this is what Conny did. And I tell you, this guy can outdo most police dogs. And but because also when you go to the Apache tribe and other native Indian tribes, their way of tracking is so much than just looking at tracks on the ground and sniff the air. It's on a spiritual level as well, and an emotional, and so many different levels. Really fine-tuned himself into becoming a tool of expertise in these areas. I would suggest that now he's working with both police, military, private people, private persons in Sweden, companies, security companies, and so on, in the art of tracking, because it's a matter of heightening your senses and be aware of here and now and all what you feel and sense, because we are such amazing tools, our bodies, our senses. And so if we just learn to really, really tune in and listen to them, I tell you, whoa, the new doors opens up in an amazing way.
That is amazing.
So this is why I would so like to invite Conny into this, also because he is, I hope, like myself, never negative when it comes to the future, or depressed, or just like whining. Both of us see there are major challenges ahead, and we have to be strong and brave, but it's like with joy and full on speed on. And Conny is a pure example of incredible integrity and inner strength. So I applaud him as a human being, and I'm so happy that he can join us today.
Well, thank you for all you've done, Conny, and thank you for being with us. You're in Sweden, of course, and you were a member of the Swedish police. We've heard recently from Biljana Martinovsky about some of the really astounding things that have been going on in Sweden. And it definitely is a country that has transformed recently. Biljana's told us about the cultural upheaval that the forced migration of displaced Islamic immigrants from countries that have been basically invaded and destroyed by the United States, its allies, NATO, and just flooding Sweden with this cultural clash. And there's been a lot of pressure on the police. We've heard about these no-go zones. And so you're no longer with the police, correct?
Exactly. I stopped my job as a policeman for 7 years ago. And today I'm a professional tracker and I'm teaching other people awareness and tracking and other types of skills.
Mm-hmm. And while you were still with the Swedish police force, were you contending with any of the gang rapes and any of the migrant crime, the huge uptick in crime that Sweden has experienced, or did you leave before that began?
That has been an ongoing problem for a long time, but it's been increasing just a few years back. Mm-hmm. And for me as a tracker, I believe my senses, and what I see, I know. So I see that it's so corrupt. Our system is so corrupt. And for me, it's as a shock, because I was born in a country that we really believed in the society, in the government, and the truth. And today, it's a completely different country from a country where I was born in.
And that's a very scary example for a lot of us around the world. I think many people in the United States can feel that happening, our country shifting away from what it once was into something that is possibly scary to a lot of people. Again, I want to thank you for joining us, and people who want to learn more about Conny and his tracking can go to tracker.one, and Conny's got a website that's available in both English and Swedish, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so we can learn all about Conny there. And of course, Ole has prepared a lot of information for us today that is sure to blow people's minds, as he is in the regular practice of doing that. We're going to get right into it. Now, Ole, last time you and I met, you had presented bombshell smoking gun evidence of a Department of Homeland Security document, a permit for a march in Washington, the March for Our Lives, which was, of course, in support of the anti-Second Amendment wishes of the students there at the Marjorie Stoneman High School. And your information showed us that that permit had been applied for months before the shooting occurred. Is there any more that's developed along those lines?
Well, as you might remember, I also predicted the Florida shooting more than 2 months before it happened.
Yes.
And this, the email that you're talking about was one of my sources that contacted Homeland Security, an officer called Scott C. Earhart, I believe his name was. And this individual working for Homeland Security, I don't think he was aware of that this thing would get out there in the magnitude it has, but he just was, I believe, very truthfully just saying that the permit for this march was given out. Or listen, I'll find the if you talk a little with Conny, I'll find it instead.
Sure. Well, so Conny, now that you're full-time on the tracking, what are some of the things that you're involved in that cross over into Ole's research, and some of the things that, obviously, I presume you guys met as a result of Ole's research into the assassination of Olof Palme, the former Prime Minister of Sweden.
Yeah, I actually met Ole by a friend of mine I got in contact with him because I was heavily involved in investigating a murder of a young girl in Sweden for 2.5 years ago. Her name was Lisa Holm. She had just disappeared. She was a daughter of a military officer. He was special forces. And it was really, really a strange disappearance. And then they found her, and my feelings was just like, this is wrong. So I was then contacted by the lawyer of the person who was convicted of that murder, and during that time I saw and felt, and I found so much evidence that this person who was convicted of this crime of murder, this young girl, he was innocent.
Wow.
Completely innocent. Yes. And I was starting to investigate and study how Ole was investigating all the false flag, and I start to recognize the pattern of the crime of Lisa Holm and the false flag operations. So I just called him by Skype and I said, Ole, hello, I need to talk to you. You see, I see the same pattern that you show on your investigations. And he said, well, nice to talk to you, but I'm on the way to airport. So, okay, give me just 5 minutes. But those 5 minutes become 30 minutes. And now we are good friends, and we are communicating, and we're helping each other to make truth come, and we all can be much more be aware.
And so was the actual murderer ever located and the right person convicted, or it was just this person who was innocent?
This innocent person, he was charged and condemned for murder for life in the first court and the second court, and he's now for life innocent in prison.
Wow.
Do you know, Jason, what we did, just like Conny said, I was on my way to the airport to go on a tour, and so I only had very limited time, but I said to Conny, please just give me the outline. And as soon as he gave me the outline, I said, okay, if this is something else than the official story, then this and 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 this, and Conny said, it's all there. Okay. So I tell you, but that murder of this beautiful innocent girl is, if you scratch on the surface there, you will get into some very, very ugly things on the highest level. That I know for sure. And this is also why a totally innocent individual is sitting now rotting away, like many others. He's not the only one. But I sure will do everything I can to get him out, also with the other ones. It's just that in the meantime, the threat from these bigger sources that they are connected to are just so overhanging that we need to deal with that first. Right. Once that is transcended, it's time to get these people out of jail. There's so many innocent people.
Wow.
Yes.
It's horrendous.
And has Sweden been subjected to the same situation as the United States in terms of for-profit prisons? Are these people being jailed? No. Okay.
No, thank God for that.
Right.
Because that is super dangerous. And if you look at what happened in the US, you will have the same forces that are behind the drug trading, the gun trading, also are behind the private prison ones, and the music business that are trying to, especially in the rap and hip hop area, they're just there to fuel the whole thing, to get minorities to kill each other and then get locked away. And these prisons, it's just like if you have a 5-star hotel that you can't fill, then what do? You know, turn it into a prison and then trying to get people sentenced to as long prison sentences as possible. It's megabucks, you know, it's super good business. And the longer they're in there, may they rot in hell. Who cares, as long as they get their money.
But I assume there's some reason why this individual was specifically thrown in jail for the murder of Lisa Holm. Was he targeted?
He was a total innocent immigrant that was there picking berries and like a carpenter type of thing. Totally
Exactly.
innocent. A
Wow.
typical patsy that could not defend himself, couldn't hardly speak the language.
Wow.
Perfect to put away. That's the thing.
Exactly. And he couldn't.
Super framed.
Absolutely, he couldn't almost talk the language. And in that area, it's really a high-profile area. You have a lot of noble people living there. The king come there, and a lot of famous people come and hunt. And those like castle type of buildings who is there, they have this almost medieval attitude towards women and immigrants. So the immigrants is working on these castles, and they are nobody believed them. So they are easy to frame.
Right. Right.
And also, it wasn't the first murder either of young women in the area.
Exactly.
It's really, really bad. And I hope, Conny, that we can continue our series. We were going to do that about this assassination or this murder, and get it back on track.
So perhaps there's something more to it. We've been hearing a lot about sex cults, this NXIVM thing in California, where we've had a famous actress now convicted of human trafficking. Whenever there's a seemingly random murder of a young woman like this, all kinds of questions arise as to who may have actually been behind it and why.
Yes.
There's a lot of trafficking, sex trafficking. There's a lot of pedophile gangs, but most of the time they're on a very high level in society.
Right.
It's not among normal people. It's among the higher ranking areas, royalties, barons, queen. All of these. It's up there. That's where it really flourishes, and that is where they forcefully put a lid on, and they will try to stop anyone from getting in there. Because if you start finding out Sweden, it will be connected with Holland, Belgium, you name it, Germany
UK.
and England and the US, because it is international. They are sending them right, left, and center. So this is why when you get into these areas, they will try and crush you. And,
absolutely.
Well, and I've been seeing that firsthand, Ole. Of course, you've been coming on the show for several months now, and I've got to thank you. I've been following your work for many years, and now that you and I are colleagues and friends, we're getting into some incredibly interesting things. You've been sharing all of your observations and theories about the illuminati or the elites, whatever we want to call them, their sense of karma and how they feel that placing these encoded messages in their operations absolves them of some sort of blame or something like that. And you've developed an acute ability to read these messages and codes, and people have even been emailing me images and things from events around the world where they're now seeing shoes and things that you've pointed out. So I think everyone is really interested to see what you've prepared for us today with regard to predicting some of these incidents and also combining it with Conny's abilities based on the Apache tracking. And I think everyone's very interested to hear what you've got for us.
Okay, please, Conny, I'm going to show a PowerPoint at any time. I would love you to just jump in and comment and whatever, okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to share screen here.
Yeah.
See? Boom. Let me know when you can see it.
We've got it.
Okay. Just to start, here is this. This is the email that I found. And then the whole storm on Twitter, all kinds of different variations that fake evidence, fake news, whatever. I tell you, this is what I was sent. And this is one of my sources that contacted Homeland Security, just asking about, inquiring about how was it possible that this application for the March for Our Lives demonstration in Florida, how is it possible that it normally takes 180 days, and here, boom, within a month they were able to pull this massive march on in Washington, D.C. And so this is what he wrote. His name is Officer Scott C. Earhart, badge number 2372. Good morning. In reference to your inquiry concerning the March for Our Lives demonstration here in the District of Columbia on March 24, 2018, MPD received a permit application several months prior to the actual event, and there was several months of planning for this large event. If you're requesting additional information, blah, 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 and so on. And you got his phone number, it's Homeland Security Bureau, Special Operations Division, Planning and Logistics, Metropolitan Police Department. And I'm sure I really feel bad if I put dear Scott C. Earhart in a bad situation, but I just think that most probably he's just an honest individual who wanted to just say, listen, there's something very bizarre going on here.
Well,
anyway,
he wanted you to share this information, correct?
He was the one who wrote back. I mean, it was just an email asking, and then he wrote this. So there was no question. Was there several months of planning in the event? Nothing like that. He wrote that himself.
Right.
And then after that, I think that he ended up in a very difficult situation because suddenly somebody was answering from his email, but written in a totally different way. Like just half a sentence or something. Also, they tried to say that, no, there was a misunderstanding. This were the March for Lives demonstration in January or something like that. And also, but there's so many other things that doesn't match up either. They send like a form where they say, well, here's the application. Well, it's the wrong application. And it's not for one of these demonstrations. Also, it's half filled out. There's many of these fields that are not filled in. There's also, the official story says that it's like this handful of teenagers or young students that just, without any skill, just managed to pull this massive event off. And you don't do that. I mean, you really need skilled people. And then it turned out that it was actually a TV producer called Dina Katz that was the one behind this whole thing. She's the one who signed the applications and so on. And she's a TV producer for several different TV productions, such as Dancing with the Stars. And she has also arranged another one for the Women's March in Washington, D.C. So She knows what she's doing.
Well, and they're also clearly anti-Trump and probably supporting the Clintons and the corrupt affiliates.
I tell you, in this bizarre world that I am in, I don't trust any of these players at all. So very often for or against Trump, okay. But once you get behind the scenes, you will see, if I'm correct, that it's all the same. It's just another layer, a veil of darkness, of theater play for us to get confused about. Right. We're talking the deep state here behind this whole thing. Mm-hmm. This is my interpretation. Mm-hmm. Also, there was one really interesting thing I thought was that the Marriott Hotel had given free empty rooms for the preparations of this march. Mm-hmm. And the Marriott Hotel has 4 times been the location. The Marriott Hotel in Chantilly, Virginia, has 4 times been the location for the Bilderberg meeting.
Yes.
Very infamous Bilderberg meeting. It's only a stone throw away from Washington, D.C. It's only a stone throw away from Langley, the CIA headquarters. Mm-hmm. But also at the Westminster Bridge attack a few years ago on the 22nd of March, which I predicted 1 month before it happened, there was right opposite the hospital, which is right next to the entrance into the bridge, where the people that were injured were supposed to be carried in and taken care of. Instead, they were being carried to a building right opposite the hospital, and none of the ambulances were used or anything like that. And that building, from where a lot of the footage was taken and so on, was the Marriott Hotel in London. Then you have the Marriott Hotel in Copenhagen, where I hope and I believe that I diffused a planned massacre there because the Bilderberg meeting was supposed to be held there 2014. Then there was an alleged terror attack in Pakistan at the Marriott Hotel.
Wow.
Then there was there was an alleged attack in Indonesia on Java at the Marriott Hotel. You know, so the Marriott Hotel really, and then you see how the owners are in part of I think the Trilateral Commission,
really?
And so on. So this hotel is a big player in these things. Anyway, so are you ready?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, first of all, I just want to start off with some of these color codes. At the moment, or this year, it seems like there are color codes for these different operations. One of them is deep purple, a very deep purple that has been used for the last few years. And there also talks about George Soros' Purple Revolution. But you will see this color purple very, very central in many, many of the images we are being shown. And the other color is the exact opposite on the color circle, which is orange. You will see that this orange was at the Las Vegas thing where the orange ribbon. There was Stephen Paddock, when you see the photoshopped image of him with his girlfriend, there was an orange, ribbon tied around his hand. The orange has just turned out again and again. And according to some sources that I've been in touch with, they say that it's the color of sort of foreboding near death, that death will soon come. It's a very sinister color in these areas. But after the Florida Parkland High School shooting, which I predicted 2 months before it happened, the color orange has now turned into a symbol for protesting against guns, and also for the walkout of the high schools where the students they've used the color orange. So I just think that this orange is becoming. Let me just see, for some reason it's stuck. I'm sorry, 2 seconds. So here we have protected children. These are from different schools. The teacher, this is the way they do it. Like the teacher is standing up talking, the background is orange. The signs are written in orange and so on. Many things in the background. Here, other schools, I think this is up in Alaska, where the orange is there, against gun control, and so, or for gun control, confiscation of guns. But also, I want to point out that you have a very recent drill in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, where tomorrow is going to be the King's Day in the Netherlands, which is the biggest party day of the year. But it was also the site of the so-called Queen's Day Massacre 2009, which was a false flag operation as well. And when you see here is from the drill yesterday, can you see all the participants as well are having this orange thing? Yeah. And at the...
I can't see any picture at all.
Are you not seeing anything?
No, I can't see any picture.
Conny, if you go on to YouTube to Crowdsource the Truth 2, you should be able to see it there. But make sure you have your audio off.
Okay.
So, but Jason, you can see it?
Yes, I see it clearly.
Okay. There was also pupils from Parkland, Florida, that were part of the demonstration in Washington. Many of them were wearing the orange. So I don't know, but it almost looks like it's the same print that they have on this. But this is in the U.S. This is in Holland. And
Ole.
Once again, I want to point out that when you look at this, to be able to understand what's going on at the moment, you have to look at NATO, not single European country, but NATO operations, NATO nations, or the US, Canada, Australia. These are the ones that are playing this whole thing at the moment.
Now, forgive me for
And also
interrupting,
famous
Ole,
shoes.
but Kitty, well, someone in the comments here on YouTube is saying orange has a gematria of 33,
33.
very significant color symbolism. What is gematria? Is this numerology?
I'm not an expert in this area, but it's so it's better you ask someone else, because I try to avoid it because I don't know enough about it. I'm very aware that it's 33, and 33 is a color or the number that keeps repeating. I mean, it's one of the satanic numbers that are being used. And also when there are different like calculators where you can put in the name of something or number sequences, and it adds up and out comes the numbers. And there's especially one guy on YouTube that unfortunately I don't know his name, but what he does is he's checking all the number plates on cars that are involved in many of these alleged terror attacks. And more or less every single time, whatever number and letter combination on these number plates, they come out as 33. It's like 33, 33, 33, 33.
Wow.
And we're going to come back to some of these strange number things as well. But I just wanted to point out, you mentioned the shoes. The shoes is, as far as I know, a Freemasonic symbol, and a symbol for many, many other things as well, and religions. But one shoe off means that the individual that is without one shoe, that individual is doing it voluntarily. Two shoes off means that it's showing homage to the sacred space. But this shoe is almost also like a business card for when it's a false flag operation, like a hidden clue for the people in the know-how. But also, in addition, what I learned from Cody Snodgrass, the CIA whistleblower, I think it was last time we were on, he said that it's very probable, and I totally believe that this is true, that the shoe, just like when you're trying to break down somebody in MK Ultra procedures, when you put them through awful sexual abuse, torture, and while you do it, sometimes they show like a symbol in front of the victim,
like
so that
trigger.
in the end, a trigger, so that in the end, the trigger itself, the image itself, without the abuse, will be enough to trigger that individual.
Pavlovian
And if you look
response almost.
Yeah, and Cody suggested that this shoe is being used as like a mass mind control trigger, that ever since the Holocaust, where shoes, the mountains of shoes, that it's just been all over the place. And the more I look into it, it was used, by the death squads in Honduras. It was used so many different places. And nowadays, when you read about different alleged accidents, car crashes, so many of these things, I believe, are not true anymore. It's just there to keep us in a constant fear mode. And
I agree with that.
And sometimes it's just a photo of a shoe. I've collected so many of these images of just shoes. Gang stabbing, the image is not of the gang, of a stabbing, of a crime site. It's just a shoe. And so the shoe, I think, is extremely important to become aware of, because it shows you it's their operation. Conny, is there anything you wanna add?
I can't see the pictures. I have got my computer now, so I can follow you with the pictures. In a moment, I will have the pictures from my computer.
Okay.
But looking for the details is always revealing. And if there is a detail who is not something you can find a context to, there is something who is low. It is most important that the details will follow a context, but also why it's not following a context. So like you always do, looking for the details, it will always be the way to solve and to find out something who is hidden or is a lie.
Yeah. No, so there's been a whole long series of different attacks. So I'm just going to go through quickly a few of them and then see if I can start connecting some of the dots. And then in the end, I'm going to say that I believe I found links that are pointing to a very
Travis Reinking.
very horrific target, but let's go there. First one, there was this so-called Nashville Waffle House shooting, and if you noticed how quickly they name these things, and then it's the same name that is being spread in newspapers everywhere. And I would suggest that this is a way of, for product placement as well. I mean, the Waffle House shooting, every time marketing agents, they say good or bad publicity. There is no such thing as bad publicity. If your name keeps mentioned or your company's name are mentioned over and over again, it's good advertising. And here we have the name, the Waffle House shooting. So here it said that a young guy, Travis Reinking, 29 years old, was wearing a coat and nude underneath it, and then started going in, walking, shooting people. But I'm just going to go very quickly about it. If you listen to his name, Reinking, it's almost like rethinking. And when you look at now, when they're in these operations, there's a lot of psyop against guns in the US. Also here, there's the hero. They always want a hero in the stories. There's this young guy who is said to have jumped the shooter and taken an AR-15 from him, and so on. And here, if you look at his jumper, it's the exact color we're talking about. This deep purple, reddish purple. That is the color that they're using as the color code, I believe, to show for people that are involved in this whole thing that it's their operation. They cannot risk, having emails that can be leaked, or phone calls that can be tapped, or writing letters or something. So they need this wordless communication, and I think that is one of the reasons for these color codes. Also here, when they do these things, it's also very patriotic. There's always the American flag in the background. You can almost hear the trumpets and the national anthem being played, and so on. For someone who hears me for the first time, this might sound totally crazy, but please, I've done between 400 and 1,000 interviews. Most of them you can still find on YouTube before they're shut down. But I go into great detail in many, many cases, pointing these things out. And so here we have Travis Rethinking apprehended. Here he is. He was naked in a black coat. Here he's got clothes on. And if you look at, once again, the color code of his shirt or T-shirt, and also he was kind enough to leave a handbag on the ground. That's how they found him. The bag was empty except for a handwritten note with his name and address. Do you remember all the passports we found over the years? Charlie Hebdo, all of these passports, 9/11.
Yeah.
But here, so this.
Sorry, Ole, before you get off the Waffle House thing, I found another element that fits some of your criteria for these events. I'm looking at the New York Post, and they have a headline saying that the suspected Waffle House shooter's ex-boss urged the feds to keep him locked up. So it's yet another case where, the FBI knew about this guy, and yet nothing happened. And you've said in the past that you feel that this storyline is continually being planted so that people can become prepared for this notion of predictive crime enforcement.
it's standard operation nowadays. It's every single time they come out at the press conference saying, "Oh, we're very sorry. We had him on our radar. We even interrogated him, and then we didn't have anything, any hardcore evidence, so we had to let him go. And now here we are with all these dead bodies." So problem, reaction, solution. That is a real problem. So what would the solution be? The solution would be to be able for the police to arrest on suspicion only, an income minority report. That is what they're trying to sneak in on us by repeating this story.
Right.
Well, this month was also the anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing. It happened 1995 on the 19th of April. And this year was the first year where there was a conference arranged. I was supposed to have been there on Skype. Cody Snodgrass was also supposed to be there, but it seems like none of us made it. There were technical issues and so on, but it seems like the conference was held and that in a very successful way. But I would say that there are possible dots pointing in different directions around this whole thing. Here we have this building that was blown up by Timothy McVeigh, or at least that's the official story, with a homemade bomb. When you look at the forensic evidence, absolutely impossible to make that damage with a homemade bomb inside a truck that size. What we're looking at is very, very advanced inside placed explosives and so on. And there were even more explosives inside the building that didn't go off. There was 3 different things found. And one of the symbols and things for the Oklahoma City bomb, when you go to the museum of this, is this boot. We're back to the boots again, or the shoes. Now, I'm going to jump a little right, left, and center, so please bear with me. But there was an attack in Germany in the beginning of this month, on the 7th, where a van is said to have driven into a crowd and killed 9 people and injured 12. And one of the the number plates on the crime scene was this one. MS stands for Münster, and then you got NYNO11. I mean, what does that say to your subconscious? I would say
New York 9/11.
There you go. But also, this is the memorial in Oklahoma City, and here you have 901. The explosion is officially said to have taken place at 903, which is said on the other end of the monument. There's another wall there. The whole monument in Oklahoma City is super Freemasonic, I tell you, and it's
Ole,
right up.
Have we spoken about the number 93? I'm not sure if you're familiar with Quinn Michaels, who's done a lot of research into occult practices and things that are linked to Aleister Crowley and the reoccurrence of the number 93.
No, but
there it is.
How do you see 93?
Didn't you say that 903 was the time that the bomb was supposed to go off?
That I said yes. And that is on the second wall of the monument. And the monument is right in front of the Freemasonic headquarters as well in Oklahoma City. Plus the Alfred P. Murray building, also on the sign outside the building before it was blown up, is a pyramid, the Freemasonic one with the old seeing eye at the top.
Wow.
And he was also a Freemason, Alfred P. Murray. He was a judge and so on. And when you look at the monument, they have this reflecting pool, which is a Freemasonic thing as well. You got it in front of the Washington Monument. You got it in front of many other things, also on Ground Zero with this, and that is a Freemasonic symbol of what it is, structure in this. And when you look at the monument like this, what does it remind you of?
Yeah, no doubt.
This is, we're talking on a subconscious level, you know, how are you affected? Because our subconscious works all the time. Conny, can you see the images now?
Yeah, it looks like Twin Towers.
It was the Twin Towers.
And I'm also, Ole, I'm showing some images of the reflecting pools that are now in New York City at the 9/11 memorial.
Do you know they wanted to have the new Twin Towers as an obelisk, the building, but that was just too obvious, so they had to change it.
But isn't it
It's
an
still,
obelisk? It's a single tower.
yeah.
What's the definition of an obelisk?
An obelisk is it's a pillar, normally square, and then on top of it there's a pyramid.
Ah, right.
It's a phallus. It's from the old Egyptian mythology, where Isis was looking for, I think, her husband or son that had been chopped up in pieces, and the only thing that she couldn't find was his dick, and that is the symbol of the obelisk, male power.
Amazing.
But like I said, I'm going to jump a little here and there, and I hope that I will make sense. So here we go to the Toronto van attack, because in Oklahoma City, it said that Timothy McVeigh placed a Ryder truck like this outside the building, and the Ryder truck was filled with explosives, homemade explosives, and blown to smithereens. Well, the Ryder truck, in Toronto, we had a Ryder rental van, and it was almost on the date, on the anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing. So here we have Ryder coming. This is how they play us, how they connect things, just as playing our subconscious, because we just, at least that is what I believe. And so here it said that the van just got up on a footpath and then drove for a long distance, hitting pedestrians along the way. And then it was stopped by the police. But the story, when you look at it, doesn't match up at all, nor does the injuries or anything else. And what most people are not aware of, I would say, is that there was a G7 meeting at the exact same time in Toronto. And every time when there is a Bilderberg meeting or a G7 or any of these elite meetings, when they try to get the attention away from it so that we won't really look at what they're up to, they have some kind of what is it called? Not diffusion, diversion.
Right.
Like boom, look over there, look over there.
Yeah.
So that we're busy looking at some horrific event, not really looking into what they're up to. And I don't think that this was a coincidence at all. I also want to point out that the Bilderberg meeting this year is in Torino in Italy, if my information is correct. And it will be the first week in June. So prepare, around June the 1st, there will be some diversion somewhere saying boom, that will make us look in that direction so that we do not go there or focus on what they're up to. And please have a look at this. This is like a fire post. Is that what you call them? A water post for the fire brigade?
Fire hydrant.
Say again, please.
A hydrant.
Okay.
Fire hydrant.
Are they normally really stuck to the ground, or do they easily fall over?
Well, I think they're designed so that if a car crashes into it or something, it does break off like that.
Okay, but wouldn't you say that it would make sort of major damage to the car?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so we look at the truck. First, here is some where one of the victims is said to have been lying here. If you look at these water bottles, that is typical also when it comes to false flag operations, because when crisis actors are involved and you stage an event, it takes time to get everything prepared. And one of the giveaways is that you will find identical water bottles next to all the victims, all the bystanders, all of these people that are involved in playing it out. It is what do you call it? The one in charge for the extras. I can't
director.
Not the director. But they have a special just that it take care of the extras and give them bottles, and they're always identical because they hand them out to all of them. Right. So many times you can through the water bottles you can identify what pedestrians, what cops, what victims, and so on. And here, right next to the blood, we have 4 identical water bottles. And also the controllers, they're always controllers. When you have these scenes where people are trying to help somebody that is wounded, you will very rarely see the wounded one. You will just see normal people bending or kneeling around somebody that looks wounded. They're doing CPR, all of these things. But around them, you will have these military type looking guys that are just there, often looking in the other direction, because their job is to see that no normal person will be allowed to get too close while this whole thing is going on.
Right.
So back to the truck. Look at this truck. For one thing, what is the damage to this one? Well, the headlights are just not there.
This is supposed to have hit a fire hydrant?
Well, the fire hydrant has been hit by something. Can you see?
This looks like it hit a brick wall.
Yeah, but if you look at the bumper, it's almost untouched.
Right.
It would have a massive bent inward area due to this water thing. Also, the grill is missing, just like in Nice and several of these other truck attacks, where you see that it looks like it's damaged, but it's not really. Conny, if you look at this, also there's no blood, even though this has hit at least killed 9 people and injured at least 12. Conny, you as a former police, what would you say about the damages to this car? If I say that when a pedestrian had hit what is normally the case is that the body is thrown up and then it hits the window, the front window. That's where most of the impact comes.
Yes, it's really typical, and I had to go much more closer to see the details. I wanted to look for the yellow color, maybe from this fire post, and look for maybe blood or other small details from humans. But spontaneously looking at that hit, it looks like it been crashing to a wall or something.
Right. Or prepared to look that way by an art department from a film crew or something like that.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it.
There is no color. There's no color from the yellow one. There's no blood, not a single blood, not on the tires either.
It's very strange.
The whole grill is missing, including the headlights and the sides of the headlights. Everything, it's just not there.
Yeah.
Can the hood itself be damaged like that by human bodies?
It just looks too uniform, Ole. I completely agree with you. I mean, again, when I would be on a film production, if you were going to have a prop vehicle that was to look like it was an accident, you'd have members of the art department use tools to affect a vehicle like this and dent it in. And then what you're dealing with is an artist's interpretation of how a crash might look, not the actual physical response of a vehicle crash. I mean, this looks, it doesn't even actually look like it crashed into a brick wall, because that would scrape paint off of the white hood there. I mean, what could it have possibly hit? It looks like it hit a giant pillow.
Yeah, normally also you don't have sharp bends on the metal if it's
Too perfect.
hit by a human body.
Right.
It's when it hits other metal or a sledgehammer or
Oh, and
also
Ole,
had it.
Joe Napoli points out 9033 on the license plate, 33 and 93, right there.
Thank you so much. And there's more going on. There's also 901 in the background, in the phone number up to the left.
Yes, I see that. And also 3963 in the registration number of the Ryder truck there. I mean, people who disagree with us will say that these things are coincidental, but when we look at incident after incident after incident and see these recurring digits, it does seem to be one of these encoded messages.
It's like this is why I try to avoid it often, because it sounds like speculation too much. But it's like I check them all the time, because these are one of the things that leads you on the right track sometimes. I mean, of course, coincidences occurs, of course, but you have to look at these details as well.
I would also add that in that phone number, sorry, if you could just go back one quick second, Ole. In that phone number, we see 6555, so that's 3 5s, and a 6, in some sense, is an encoded 9, an upside down 9. So another possible occurrence of a 93.
For sure. You also have AH, which is for the Islamic time. As far as I know, it's an abbreviation.
Wow.
But I have to look into these things more, because I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
And the shoes, they're just shoes everywhere. Here, can you see the shoes that I pointed out 100 times over again? Here they are, not even near a victim. Here you have a victim that is lying there with the shoe next to it. And here, I mean, what to say? I mean,
the shoes just so neatly sit next to the victim. They look brand new. Look at the soles are pure white.
They are, and we're back to Nike shoes again. This is the one, but I tell you, it's almost getting a bit spooky, because it's the third time now where it almost feels like they're speaking directly to me, because look at this, searching for clues. This is what I say all the time. You have to find the clues. You have to search for the clues. Where are the hidden clues? It's in the shoes. Isn't that a little bizarre?
I mean, it's just so on the nose. It's unbelievable, Ole. I think everyone really appreciates what you're doing here and pointing these things out, because it's, at a certain point, it just becomes too many occurrences for even the most skeptical person to just dismiss.
But Jason, do you want to hear one? This is a strange one.
Please.
Like we had one suicide bomber in Sweden ever. A really bizarre case that Conny and I are going to look into a little more. I mean, it's very poorly pulled off. Very, very strange, the whole thing. And the guy that is said to have blown himself up, do you know where he came from? He came from the exact same little town where I spent my time as a journalist. And it said that he lived like 200 yards from where I used to live. And we apparently went to the same high school, the same, direction of education, the exact same classes, but he was 3 years after me. I mean, maybe it's just a coincidence. I'm not saying anything, but what are the chances? As far as I know, I'm the only one in Sweden that has ever sort of dug into these things. He is the only suicide bomber, and we come from within 200 yards of each other.
One of the things that I'm noticing here, Ole, I've been looking up these stories from Sweden as you and Conny are bringing them up, and I'm getting this newspaper, thelocal.se, which has a big orange banner across the top.
I don't know that newspaper at all.
Anyway, back to your presentation.
And also we have the GoFundMe ones. I mean, here in Toronto, this is a speculation, wild speculation, but I think that a lot of these black ops are funded through GoFundMe.
I agree with you, Ole. I do not trust GoFundMe.
It is one of Obama's former colleagues that approved of GoFundMe and started it, approved of this type of funding, and as far as I know, started GoFundMe. And when you look at, I mean, things hardly, they happen and boom, within like half an hour, there are GoFundMe things up there. And here they're aiming for 1 million, 1 million. And it's just been like for a few hours, and they say, well, it's 1 million to help with the funerals. I mean,
and
these
Ole, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but of course, the now fired former deputy director of the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation, Andrew McCabe, also started a GoFundMe campaign after he was fired and very quickly raised $567,946. This is an individual who, it's been reported, has a financial net worth of $11 million or something like that. His wife is a working medical doctor. He drives some sort of factory modified 250,000 plus Porsche. And he suddenly opens a GoFundMe and right away gets over $500,000. I have an acquaintance who has a GoFundMe for a cancer victim that hasn't raised $20,000 in months. So it's curious to me how these GoFundMes get money rushing into them from anonymous sources. I tend to agree with your assessment.
But have you seen Breaking Bad?
Of course.
Of course. Well, you have Walter White, who had cancer, and his son started a GoFundMe type of thing.
He was laundering money through it, wasn't he?
No, it wasn't him. They hijacked it, and I think it was his lawyer. No, it was one of these gangsters that used it to launder money.
Yeah.
And this is exactly, I think, what is happening here. Yeah. So I don't think that these amounts of numbers, where are they coming from? They're coming from...
I don't know if you're aware of, there is probably more than one of these, but there is a company called BitPay that allows you to use cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and load it onto a prepaid credit card like a Visa or a MasterCard. And so it seems like there would be a number of ways for determined people to find anonymous methods of loading up these GoFundMe accounts with thousands of dollars.
Well, I'm in the learning process of how they do it, but I suspect this is what's going on. I think that, so please, people, before you do reach out, when your heart is in pain for these alleged victims and so on, please check out the facts first before you send money, because you could be part of funding new operations. Also, here, I'm just going to show a few details, but here in the red circle is where the van is finally stopped in a very bizarre way by one police officer who calls him out, almost like a showdown, a Wild West showdown. And they're standing pointing at each other with guns. And then the police, he thinks that, oh, the sirens from the police car is a bit annoying. So he goes in and turns it off while the other guy is still pointing at him with a gun, and then come back out and arrest him. I mean, very, very strange to say the least. But if you look here, the whole street is empty on that side. And as usual, somebody is filming from above. There's always this bystander or normal person who's standing somewhere in a high building nearby, filming down, and we just think, oh, it's real footage because it's a cell phone being used. You never ask yourself who filmed it. And so I question that very much as well. I totally think it's part of the operation, but sometimes it also gives it away, because here you can see there's a tow truck here that is put diagonal across the two lanes, blocking them. And also you have both of these lanes are totally packed, possibly, but except here where the stage is set. Can you see?
Yeah.
It stopped there, and then it can. I think that all of these cars, you can see they come from here. There's no cars here or here or here, but here, these cars are just blocking the whole thing off, setting the stage, and then you block off here, and just in case somebody comes in, you have the tow truck there.
Ole, do you remember the name of the woman who was a photographer that produced a JFK Dealey Plaza film many, many years after the fact and was trying to sell it and everything? She had a similar vantage point up above like that. And I don't know if you've heard this, but today there's been a new release of something like 19,000 documents in the JFK assassination.
They released that today?
Yeah.
Okay, so please notice the date. When are they doing it? They're doing it when they're up to something really awful. They don't want you to look there, so they're throwing us a piece of bone over there, saying, here you go, whoop. And so people will start, have you heard this? Have you heard that? And they'll be in the newspapers. And so, oh, we really got democracy because look, they're releasing all of these things. Why is anything secret after all of these years?
Right.
You know, why is there anything confidential at all? National security of mind. There is nothing that could affect national security except if it's not part of the government who is part of the assassination.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting when they throw us these bones, because it's diversion again. So here is where some of the victims were found on the pavement here. And very often, I tell you, so often I find involvement by CIA, MI6, but mostly CIA and Mossad. And it's a repeated pattern as well, that right in front of where these things happen, there's some symbolic building or office where I believe sometimes that is where they can control their own backyard and then use it for the operation as sort of a headquarters, but also to prepare everything. And right on the opposite side of where these people were found is the Simon Wiesenthal Holocaust Center.
Huh.
I have no idea if there is any connection, but these Holocaust centers they're almost always there in connection. It's just like if you go to Dallas and you look for the book depository, the museum of the shooting. On the same signpost, you will also have to the Holocaust Museum. It's like they're connected. In Stockholm also, you have these connections, and so I'm just pointing it out.
People are suggesting that this could be diversions away from the Peter Strzok and Lisa Page texts, the FBI agents who were plotting to take the country back by overthrowing Trump. I think it's also worth mentioning that I saw a story the other day, maybe yesterday, that there's some allegedly new investigation into the Seth Rich murder taking place, but it doesn't seem that new. It's still the same Brad Bauman, who was like a DNC crisis PR guy, who seems to be at the helm of this investigation. And you know, the recurring pattern that I keep seeing with Seth Rich is that they just keep bringing out that story anytime, as you say, Ole, they want to distract away from something that could be catastrophic.
That is how the game is played. What is unusual in this Toronto thing is that there's a lot of Asian people involved in as witnesses, as police chief, as the police officer that is said to have done this showdown. And this is apparently the best photo they could find of him. I think that is very poor quality. And the guy that they claim who did the van attack, his name is almost identical to Assassin. I mean, it's almost like My Assassin. I can't remember his name exactly, but it's almost like that. Once again, this wordplay. But now let's go back to the Münster attack that happened in Germany. Germany is a NATO base. Germany isn't even free since the Second World War. It's still on occupation. And the US has a stronghold there, and Israel as well. And here, so in Münster, we've had several drills for the last few years. There's also been other alleged attacks. But
Sorry,
Münster,
Ole,
if you listen...
The guy's name is Alec Minassian.
But can you hear it? My Assassin.
Yeah. It's strange, for sure.
It's almost like assassin.
It certainly reads that way.
It's your subconscious they're getting at. You know, it's the subconscious. You have to. It's the same way as you can put together several lines of misspelled words, and your brain will be able to read it anyway, because that's how the brain works. So they know that, and that's how they play us as well. So here in Germany, if you look at Münster, it's almost like the monster attack. But anyway, we said here that a van is said to have driven straight into a crowd in a plaza, killing some people there. And if you look here, right in the center of the image down below, what do we see? A shoe. Then you have the number plate here is MS for Münster, then YK666.
Wow.
And so 666 we know is the number of the devil, but YK in a German abbreviation for YK means you're kidding.
Yeah. Yep.
Or Yankee. It's also, the van is a VW California. The model name is California, because I think that in Münster there are several things pointing to the US, which I'm going to point out here. So here also we have the fire brigade is out, and it's up there. They got 06, 06, 06 on the backs. 666 once again.
Wow, crazy.
Well, what can I say? That's the way they play the game. It's hidden in plain sight, that's the thing. And here's another number plate, MS for Münster, and then NY9011.
Now this is a different NY911. The other one we saw was a US plate on a van, right?
No, this is the same one. I'm coming back to this one because I want to continue pointing in that direction, because also in New York, it was, if you say 9/11, NY 9/11, you're pointing towards New York, okay? And here, just a few days after that attack, ISIS released this creepy poster type of thing down in a subway station. And if you look in the background, it says High Street, Brooklyn Bridge, ISIS, and then you got some dynamite sticks below. Can you see that? And a train that is sort of coming.
The dynamite sticks
getting closer and closer.
Yeah, the dynamite sticks are over here at the pillar of the subway.
Exactly. Also, if you remember the Manhattan attack, that was some months ago, or I can't really remember when it was, but not that long ago. It is said that they say that that attacker also planned to hit Brooklyn Bridge. So here we have sort of like a connection between these two. And then right after that, ATF was urgently searching for 700 lbs of dynamite stolen 75 miles from New Jersey, and they found most of it, but some of it are still missing.
700 pounds of dynamite sounds like a tremendous amount to me.
That is a lot. And you just before that, you had the poster of ISIS with dynamite sticks in Brooklyn, High Street, Brooklyn Bridge, subway station. And the other thing in Münster pointing towards New York 9/11, but it goes on. But here, this is in Münster. This is after the attack, okay? So all of these furniture was just turned over and was lying all over the place. This is the car that attacked it. And here people are walking around laughing, putting the chairs back where they were before. This is after people were killed here officially. And this should be a crime scene. But here they are just putting the furniture back the way they were before. And please look at this statue here. Can you see it up in the left center, in the left corner?
A little bit.
And
what are we looking at there?
I'll show you. I'll get to it. But here in the background of several photos, there are the Kiepenkerl Gasthaus. Kiepenkerl. And I was like, what is the Kiepenkerl? I have no idea. This to the left is that statue that is up there. Okay. And this is... it's a statue that was built in 1896, I believe, out of sand to start with. Then during the Second World War, first it was like a symbol for the Nazis. We're still standing. And then during the invasion, when the whole city was destroyed, this statue was still standing. And then there was a US tank patrol or whatever that just destroyed it. Afterwards, it was rebuilt, and it became sort of like a symbol for resistance. But I mean, it's not famous in any way or form, as far as I know. The only thing I found with it was that it's very strange that Jeff Koons, the artist, the American artist, Jeff Koons.
Yes.
That, which I find him absolutely bizarre.
He was linked to Pizzagate, wasn't he?
He was linked to Pizzagate. I mean, this is the type of art he does. And if you look at this, for instance, I haven't cut the head of this woman or girl. It's the statue has no brain or head. It's cut off here. I mean, that to me looks like just a sex toy, and also with Pizzagate, all these things. But he has copied that statue from Münster in Germany and just made like, I'll go back and show it to you again. This one to the right. He has made a copy of this statue in Münster. Why, I don't get. But where's the location of this statue?
Now, Ole, I've located the website for Kiepenkerl Guest House, and the English version of the website says, our inn has a long tradition behind it, and certainly a much longer one than you think. The Kiepenkerl Quarter in Münster, where our Westphalian restaurant is located, is a historical trader's quarter. And as vending and trading is notoriously hungry and thirsty work, there was already a cathedral, bakery, and a brewery on the site at the present inn back in the 13th and 14th century. This inn's modern history begins in 1891, when brewer Frederick Dieninghoff bought the building, restored it, and founded his German brewery there. In 1899, however, the flourishing brewery began to outgrow the building. So maybe people can dig in. It says from 1993 onwards, the restaurant was once again a successful part of Münster's restaurant scene. 1993 has come up quite a bit lately. That, of course, was the year that the World Trade Center was first bombed by a van attack.
Yeah. Anyway, so the question is, or my question was, where is this statue now by Jeff Koons? Is there could it point anywhere, or am I just out, fantasizing or think? And here is where I found it. It's right between the Washington Monument and the Capitol. It's at the Hirshhorn Museum, right in between these two. And so if I'm connecting the dots in the correct order or in the correct way, I would say that there's a very strong possibility that they're aiming possibly at the Capitol or something in Washington.
I've got a close-up photo of that statue right now. It's interesting. It's reminiscent of the liquid metal robot from Terminator 2.
That is it. That is. But listen, what year was Terminator 2?
1991. What do you think?
Is that Terminator 2 in 1991?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a lot of 9s and 1s in that year as well.
Yep.
And also you have leads in the movie, the first Terminator film. No, it's the second one where he drives on the bike underneath the bridge to 9/11. You got leads.
Ooh.
So I don't know if I'm just fantasizing, but what the hell is going on? I think there's something spooky here.
Wow, I just Googled Terminator 2 9/11 reference. That's something I'm going to have to look into for sure.
It's when he's on the Harley and he goes down in, driving under the bridge down where there's an empty water thing.
I see.
He's being chased by the truck. And when he goes under the bridge, it says 9/11 on the bridge.
Huh.
Anyway, folks, that was all for this slideshow.
Wow. Well, amazing as always, Ole. It's fantastic to see what you've prepared for us. It's, again, stunning research into these ongoing coincidences, if we can call them that. Conny, what do you think about this presentation?
Well, it's really interesting, and what's really got my attention was the damages of the front of the van, the white van. And I think you will find the truth and the answer in the details. And the damages on the van looks pretty clean. There was no no oil, no water, no hanging thing around. It was such a clean cut or damages.
Yeah.
So so just finding just one little detail, and then you will know. So Ole I think Ole is a fantastic researcher, and he has the right passion and heart for it. And it's really delightful to work this way.
I agree. I'm always very interested in what Ole is uncovering. Not to distract, gentlemen, but this just came in on my email alerts here. Bill Cosby has been found guilty in his retrial for sexual assault. So that certainly doesn't seem like a good thing for Mr. Cosby, but there are a lot of women and people who have been accusing Bill Cosby of sexual assault and various things for many years. So that's an interesting development. People have speculated that Bill Cosby may be one of the members of these Hollywood elite structures or whatever. I think he's probably a little bit outside the scope of your research, right, Ole?
I haven't looked into it so much, but this is the thing. It was in these realms, these levels of society, it was just normal. It's us that we are shocked because now we're starting to find out. It was just business as usual or pleasure as usual, and the BBC and all of these different. Nobody knew about it. No normal people knew about it, and they felt totally secure. They could do whatever they want.
Right.
So many. Now we are here saying, "Oh my God, could he really? Oh, could he really?"
Yeah.
I think most of the people that have been up there have been involved in these things. or they've known about them and kept quiet and indirectly been part of protecting it.
Yes.
And I also say it's so easy to accuse people, but if you were in a position like that and you were sort of invited into the brotherhood up among the big boys, and now you're one of us, and you know, here party here, prostitutes there, drugs there, do whatever you want. I mean, most of us would be weak in a position like that, you know, wouldn't be able to stand our ground if we even had one, or we would maybe just join. And the dangerous thing is that many of these parties I believe, was set up to corrupt people, to get them by the balls. And, you know, because once they've done something and it's caught on camera, they got them.
Right.
They've got them.
Yeah, we've heard quite a bit about brownstoning for the past year. And I come back to Quinn Michaels. I don't know if either of you guys have heard about the time phone hack or if you've gotten involved in that, but Quinn and I did a show called Hack to the Future, where Quinn spoke about his hashtag time phone hack, but Quinn was also digging into some research around Bob Crane and Richard Dawson and Diana Dors and how that tied into the Process Church and the Zodiac Killer. And this is a fascinating topic. I would love for you two guys to get involved in this, because I think that your expertise and your research ability could be critical. But what Quinn pointed out was that they frequently had these sex parties, and there was actually even a film made called Autofocus about the life of the comedian Bob Crane, who was the star of the very popular 1960s television show Hogan's Heroes. And it spoke about how Sony was introducing video cameras at the time, and the wealthiest in Hollywood had these home video cameras. Of course, we all have them in our mobile phones now, but it was quite exclusive equipment at the time. And Bob Crane became fascinated in video recording his innumerable sexual encounters. And I saw the film just recently. I think it was a little bit of a whitewash of what went on, because when Quinn dives into some of the research, there seems to be a closer connection between Richard Dawson and Bob Crane than what was depicted in the film. And Richard Dawson was married to this very beautiful actress whose life spanned living in Los Angeles and living in the United Kingdom, had apparently some involvement with this Process Church, which was also directly linked to the Zodiac Killer, and she left for her still living son a note that Quinn speculates may have pointed to a cache of snuff videos, porno videos, any kind of unknown material that might have been stored there that had a cryptographic code of symbols that matches the codes that were on the letters from the Zodiac Killer. So it's a fascinating case in a still unsolved series of murders that perhaps we can explore in a future episode. I've got to thank you, Ole, again for amazing research, and I definitely want to remind people that if they aren't currently following Ole, they can do that. Ole is on Twitter. He is Ole Dammegard. He's at Ole Dammegard on Twitter. And of course, you can go to his website, lightonconspiracies.com. You can follow Ole's podcasts there. You can purchase books and support his research. And of course, Conny Andersson's website is tracker.one. And you can learn all about Conny and his amazing skills and his research there. Gentlemen, before we wrap it up for the afternoon, is there anything else you'd like to discuss?
Yeah, I would very much like to hear a little more from Conny,
Sure.
if possible, because I think it's very important also how we deal with these things. My intention has absolutely not been to scare people in New York or Brooklyn or anywhere. I'm just trying to diffuse these things, because the more we become aware of them, the easier we can make it dissolve, we can stop it. But I would very much like to hear Conny's point of view of how to deal with the future and the current situation and so on.
Yes, Conny, please share with us.
Okay, and then by this great inspiration that Ole have give us, I want to also share the true ability that all people have. You know, kids have this intense belief that they know that something is wrong, and the more we are getting grown up, we start to believe what we're sensing, what we're feeling, what we understand, because we start to be afraid. And I would love to inspire people by this simple way. If it feels wrong, it is probably wrong, so investigate it. If you feel that there is a situation which is dangerous or strange or curious, investigate it. Because what we need to know is the details. Then that's the details who will give us the truth and the information and knowledge. Always look for the details, so you will understand the whole context. Because if we don't understand the context, we awfully don't even get curious to investigate. So it's like all the kids, all the animals, they just love to be curious, to want to know more. So by just listen to your heart always know. You will always know if a person lying, or if it is like a dangerous situation. You know, during those years I was a cop, almost all the victims I met, they know that they were going to be attacked. They felt it, but they didn't do anything to respond the feelings. And when they were attacked, they had this guilt. They know that they were going to be attacked because of this social shyness we have. People are putting themselves down to say, well, maybe I'm just getting foolish or something.
Imagining
no,
it or
your
something.
body knows. Exactly. So please, people, start sensing, start feeling, and start questioning, start investigating. Because, you know, to stop crime, like false flags, terror, ordinary crimes, whatever, everything is a crime. It is pretty easy actually to stop crime, because crime can only be done when it's hidden and in the darkness. What Ole is doing now, he's putting a light on things. When things are getting spotlight on, there will be no crime. So the most important skill we have to be curious, to start to make questions, and always confirm and exclude what you see, what you hear, what you can feel. Never assume, always know. Because, you know, the Latin word of knowing is vidi. Vidi means I see, I know. And that's typical in English. When you understand something, you say, I see. And it's so easy and it's so powerful that we take back the human ability to observe, to know, and to share, and to see something before it's happened.
Now, Conny, at the top of the program, Ole spoke about how some of your training went into Apache tracking, and I think we all know that Native Americans relied very much on spiritualism and being one with the earth and their senses and all these types of practices. Something that we haven't gotten very into on Crowdsource the Truth, but that I've always been fascinated by, is the pineal gland and how little it's understood. Do you get into any of that, following your instincts from the pineal gland, the third eye as it's called?
Absolutely. You know, when I start to enhance my observation skills, I was mainly on my senses, my 5 senses. But today, my main focus is by sensing, you know, the situation. And then I compensate by seeing, listening, and feeling, and using my nose and my hands. So we people, we have such a special ability, so we can sense. And a typical way is like you're sensing, maybe you start to think about your girlfriend or your mother, and then there is a telephone call, and that's she's calling you. Or you're sitting in a restaurant and you feel somebody's watching you, and you turn your head around and there is a person staring at you. That ability we have, and more we have that trust, we can use that. So the Native American always said that there's always a meaning. There's a meaning of your life, of this planet, of all the animals, and all the construction have a meaning. So it's up to us as a tracker, as a scout, to understand the meaning by understanding the details and the context to details. When we have the picture put together, we understand. It's like when you're reading a book, it's thousands of letters of a book, and you mix all the letters, you can't read. So you need a perfect distance between the letters. You have them in right order so they can start forming words. Words will make sentences. And that's the same way Ole do also in these crime scenes, and what I also do. Often we don't understand the crime scene because we are too fast. We are so ambitious. We want to know directly, but you can't do that. You have to be at the place. You have to wait to all the senses. You have to see, feel, listen, and understand thousands of details. And they are like a book. You can just read it. And the most powerful tool you can have is by observation. And that's the way I can crush the mafia, organized crime, and corruption, by just standing still and see. I see you, I know you.
Yeah, and I definitely try to rely on those instincts as well. They sometimes lead to stronger evidence. Obviously, you can't go into a court and say, I just feel like this is happening. But one example in recent history is that I was getting contacted by a lot of very pushy people who wanted me to put some of our video content on a website called steemit.com. And just the nature of the way these people acted, how they were communicating with me, they just gave me a sense that they were pushing too hard and something was wrong. Now that obviously isn't proof of anything going on, but as I began to explore deeper and deeper, I found more elements of actual evidence that indicated that my initial feelings were accurate. And as I continue to accumulate this evidence, I certainly welcome the owners and operators of steemit.com to contact me and tell me how I might be misinterpreting this evidence, but that hasn't happened. I've just been getting attacked by, basically gang stalking techniques, something that I wasn't very familiar with prior to these occurrences. But as I look into that more, we see it's literally as if these individuals have gone to an afternoon class or have read a rule book as to how to behave. They're making stupid comments on the live videos. They're putting in complaints to try to stop the video broadcasts from going out. They're encouraging people to not financially support Crowdsource the Truth. They're trying to attack our account on patreon.com/crowdsource the truth, where people can become monthly sponsors, which allows me to continue the work. And they just try to malign us in general rather than actually dealing with the facts. So I think that's very telling. And Conny, I really have to thank you for your input.
That's all the evidence you need. They are giving you all the evidence. And the most effective way to track is not to hunt. Just let the tracks come to you in the information. Just waiting, sit still, listen to see, to understand. So they are giving you all the information. And I talked to a film producer once, and he asked me, "What type of tracks are you using, Conny?" And I say, I don't look for tracks. I'm looking for truth. So I'm using the tracks to find the truth. To just sit still, wait, don't chase, don't hunt. Just let them come to you. That's the most effective way.
Very wisely spoken, Conny. I really like what you've just said, and that's effective tracking in many modes of life. I want to thank my guests, Conny Andersson and Ole Dammegard. Always fascinating. Conny, I'm glad to have you as an acquaintance now, and I hope we can do some future broadcasts together. You're doing some amazing work, and Ole continues to be just blowing the doors off of these Illuminati false flag operations. Ole, thank you so much. Gentlemen, anything you'd like to say before we wrap it up here?
Can I share a little one with Conny?
Sure.
You know, there was one time, there was this, I don't know if it was a bank robber or whatever. It was some guy that had escaped, and he was hiding in a big factory building. And the police had been trying to find him for hours, and they couldn't find him because he was hiding in there. And so Conny said, leave it to me. And he said, everybody get out. He went in there, turned off the light. And then he was just standing there waiting. And then in the end, the guy moved around. Conny heard them. He said, there he is. I just think that is brilliant. That is just brilliant.
Letting the clues come to you. That is indeed. That is really brilliant. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today. And we'll be speaking soon, I'm sure. I want to thank everyone for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.